All right, the new jobs numbers came out yesterday, and there's something a little fishy about them, in my opinion. They came out from two different sources. One was the payroll company ADP, and they, of course, are a private company. They do payroll for millions of employees across all sectors of the economy. So they really have a live view of what's going on with jobs from moment to moment. They know, this week we paid such and such a company, we paid for 5,000 fewer employees than we paid for the last week or the last 6 months. So obviously they let 5,000 people go. They know it right away. The Labor Department, on the other hand, the Bureau of Labor Statistics that comes out of the Labor Department, which is an executive branch agency, of course, they do it in a bit of a different way, although in the past it's been considered the gold standard and it's the standard everybody goes by. So, yesterday, the Labor Department put out a jobs report that showed growth exceeding expectations. They grew by a surprising number, and by surprising number, I mean surprise in a couple of different ways. One, they were surprised. They say that it was much larger than expected. They expected job growth of 110,000 jobs, and they got job growth of 147,000 jobs. Surprising because that's so much higher. And to me, I hate to say this, but this administration has left me with no choice but to start to wonder. Um, Surprising to me that the number 47 is in the total. Of course, Trump is the 47th president in his second term. And we know how he is about symbolism. And we know how the people he puts in charge of the executive branch agencies, how he expects them to kowtow to him, to bend the knee to him, to constantly lavish him with praise, to give him credit for every good thing that happens, and to give blame to Biden for all bad things. So I don't know. Look, we have people in office now who will lie through their teeth about things we all saw. So we all know they're lying. About January 6th, they said it was just another tourist day at the Capitol. Yet we could see with our own eyes it was nothing like a tourist day at the Capitol, yet they said that over and over and over again. We could see it was an attempted insurrection. They were trying to stop the government from certifying the elected man, the man who was elected, as president. That's called an insurrection. Whether they succeeded or not doesn't make it not an insurrection. It's like attempted murder. Well, he didn't do anything wrong because the victim's still alive, so he didn't murder him. Well, no, it's called attempted murder now. That's still a serious crime, and you can go to jail for a very long time for that. Attempted insurrection is a very serious crime, just as insurrection would be if it had succeeded. Success or failure has nothing to do with what they intended and what they were trying to do. But the people in Washington, from the president on down, tell us they did nothing wrong. They were the heroes of the day, we're now told. They were the patriots. Those people violently protesting at the Capitol, they call them patriots. So now they come out with a fishy jobs number, and I'm supposed to just believe them? Like it's business as usual? You can trust the government? Well, you can't anymore because we have known liars in office, and they all lie. And I think they may be lying about these numbers because let me show you what's going on. Here's the ADP National Employment Report for June 2025. They say change in U.S. private employment down by 33,000 jobs. We lost 33,000 jobs. We added no net jobs to the economy. Private employers shed 33,000 jobs in June. Job losses in professional and business services and education and health services led the decline. All right, look at this. They say jobs in education and health services led the decline. And in a minute, I'm going to show you where the Labor Department says those jobs led in the increase. And it literally makes no sense that education jobs would be picking up in June in an environment where they're trying to destroy and dismantle the Department of Education, which funds money to schools all over the country. Schools know they're going to get less money, and the Labor Department's going to tell us, but they hired a bunch of people this month or last month in June, in the middle of summer when kids aren't even in school. It Doesn't make sense, right? Doesn't make any sense at all. But that's what they're going to say. But check out these numbers from ADP. This is what they picked up as quarterly GDP growth. All right, starts off with 2023, quarter one, quarter two, third quarter, fourth quarter, 2024 over here. All of these are positive numbers. It's positive growth every month for anywhere from 1.6% to 4.4% quarterly growth. All of that under Joe Biden. First quarter of Trump's second admin, a loss of half of a percent, a loss of half of a percent. That is not good. And that's going to be a trend I think is going to continue. And I have a feeling our new government is going to try to cover it up and paper it over. I literally can't put it past them. A rational, reasonable person would not put it past them to lie about these numbers because we've seen them lie about everything. They lie saying Trump won the 2020 election. He didn't win by any measure. By any standard we have to determine truth in our society, including the courts, he didn't win. The secretaries of states of all the states certified the results as they came in. They would have had to have lied. All the election officials in every state would have had to have lied. All the judges, there was something 60 or 70 different cases brought before different federal judges. They all ruled against Trump. Even judges Trump himself had appointed, so you can't just say it's liberal judges who are out to get him. No judge he appointed is out to get him. If they rule against him, it's because he legitimately did something wrong. That's how we determine truth in our society. We don't have any other way to determine truth other than to let the facts be presented in a court of law and let the judges decide, or juries, whatever the case is. But in this case, it was judges. Liberal judges went against Trump. You could say, well, they're liberal. They hate Trump. Okay. Conservative judges appointed by other Republican presidents went against Trump. And judges appointed by Trump went against Trump. Not a single judge said there was any chance he won that election. And they filed cases all over the country. They had every chance to prove it in court. And when they went to court and Giuliani said, we have evidence, and the judge said, what's your evidence? He said, we have evidence, Your Honor. We're going to bring it. And the judge said, no, don't bring it to me. Have it right now. What is it? What do you mean you're going to bring it to me? The case is now. This is your court date. This is the time to bring it. And Giuliani finally had to admit in one court hearing in Pennsylvania that, okay, we don't have any evidence. We don't have the evidence yet, he said, but we've been told that this or that shady thing happened in the election in Pennsylvania. Sorry, that's not proof. That's not evidence. If you don't have evidence, you don't have a case. That's why these cases got thrown out, not because anybody was against Trump. So we all know that. We know he lost the election, yet he continues, and MAGA continues to claim that he won. So how can we trust other things? It's going to come to a point where we're all going to know, okay, my friend lost a job and my other friend lost a job, and those two people have never been out of work, and my relative lost a job, and the prices in the grocery store are a lot higher than they used to be. But the government says jobs are growing and people are gaining jobs and no one's losing a job and inflation's down. And we're going to know that they're lying at that point. Personally, I don't know anybody who's lost a job. I don't know anybody's gotten a job either. But at some point, that's going to happen. And then when somebody like me comes along and says, I don't believe these numbers, other people are going to be like, yeah, I don't believe them either. But I don't believe them because they are fishy. And I'm going to show you why in a minute. They're fishy and they're coming from an administration of proven liars. All right. Okay, let's go to the next thing. This is private sector payrolls from ADP, and this is their drop that they're talking about, where we lost 33,000 jobs in June. All other months, we had big gains in the 200,000 range during the last few months of the Biden administration. Oh, the Biden administration was such a disaster. What are they going to say about this? Are they going to say this was a disaster? Are they going to say Trump's a disaster? Every time Biden turned around, they said he was a disaster. They said his economy was a disaster. They said the inflation was through the roof. Sure, it was 9% for a couple of months during, for a time. And then he got it down to like 3 or 4%. So yeah, it was a disaster for a little bit. thanks to the pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And then he started getting it together, and the economy came together and did a lot better, as you can see in these charts. Now, so ADP and the Labor Department's numbers vary widely. And it occurred to me to look up when they had varied this widely in the past, where they'd varied this much. And I found some pretty interesting times. June 2023, 2 years ago, last month, they varied for almost by almost 300,000. And they ADP reported at that time that there had been a job gain of 497,000, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported a jobs gain of 209,000. Then in July that year, a month later, ADP reported a gain of 324,000 and the Labor Department 157,000 gain. August 2023, nearly the same number, both agencies reported a gain. So yeah, there were some times when ADP and the Labor Department's numbers varied a lot, but they varied in the same direction. It was just they both reported gains, job gains, just a different number of jobs gains, and that's to be expected. But I don't have any information over the last several years where they varied widely, where ADP reported a jobs loss and the Labor Department reported a gain. They were always the same, and all of these were gains. So when they varied this widely, it was always both agencies reporting a gain. There's never a time when the Labor Department reported a gain and ADP reported an actual loss in jobs. So that hasn't happened. So that's very rare. What's happening right now hasn't happened before in recent memory. Now, let's take a look at this. From the Washington Post, employers added 147,000 jobs in June as labor market remains resilient. Honestly, I literally think that this 47 was put in there on purpose as a tribute to Trump, because that's what he wants. He wants a tribute. Everywhere he goes, he wants a tribute. So they report employers created 147,000 jobs in June, which is a healthy pace. Yes, that would be a healthy pace if it had happened. And then they say the unemployment rate ticked down to 4.1%, according to a jobs report released on Thursday or yesterday, reflecting the exit of workers from the labor market. So they're saying the unemployment figure went down, which they're saying is healthy, because there was an exit of workers from the labor market. No, that's not healthy. That's because people gave up and they stopped looking for jobs. So they were when they were contacted and asked, "Are you still looking for a job?" They said, "No, I'm no longer looking for a job." So the Labor Department says, "Okay, no longer unemployed. That person's out of the jobs or out of the job market. Doesn't need a job anymore, so we don't count them anymore." That's very unhealthy, and that's exactly what happened here. And they say the forecast had been 110,000 and it beat it and all that, okay? So, I don't know, the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos is becoming more and more MAGA, following the footsteps of Elon Musk. So, we'll see what happens, but this article is pretty positive for a situation that I don't think has a lot of um, positive truth in it. And here's why. Let's read the paragraph in blue. In June, this is very important. In June, more than three-quarters of job creation came from state and local governments and healthcare. Ah, remember the ADP report said that state and local governments and or government jobs were down and healthcare was down, and those were the two big drivers of jobs being down. And it makes sense healthcare would be down because they've known this big ugly bill was coming, and the president signed it today, a couple of hours ago, from the time I started recording. Um, yeah, so they knew that was coming. A hospital in Nebraska has already announced that it's going to close even before the bill takes effect, because they say when the bill takes effect, we won't have enough money to survive. So we're going to close now. Other hospitals have announced that they are probably going to close. Now that the bill's been passed and signed, they are most likely going to start shutting down as well. So it makes sense that healthcare would go down. This rings true. The Labor Department claiming that healthcare was part of the increase in jobs makes no sense at all and does not ring true. It rings about as true as saying January 6th was just another tourist day at the Capitol. Okay. So they say public sector payrolls added 73,000 jobs in June, mostly, get this, in state education. Can you believe that? They're saying state education departments suddenly in June hired a bunch of new teachers. Why? They know the Department of Education is going to shut down and shut off all their funds. Whatever, money they get from the federal government's going to be gone soon. Why would they be hiring new teachers under a circumstance like that? And why would they suddenly be hiring 73,000 new whatever they hired teachers or whatever in June when schools are closed till the end of August or September? This doesn't make any sense. The federal government, facing cuts, has continued to lose jobs, as we all know. Healthcare added 39,000 jobs. So they say, uh, basically, they say school or state education departments hiring employees for schools hired 73,000 people in June in 1 month, in a month when schools are closed. And healthcare, another industry that's under big threat from this big, ugly, disastrous bill, added 39,000 jobs. Oh, and get this. Not only was it healthcare, but it was hospitals and nursing facilities and residential care facilities. These two, nursing homes and residential care facilities, sorry, if they don't call it nursing homes anymore and I just, said something terribly offensive, I'm sorry. I'm going into old age myself, so I'm, you know, criticizing my own, I guess. Anyway, look, nursing homes, okay, nursing facilities and residential care facilities are highly dependent on Medicaid and other forms of federal subsidies and government spending. They see all that's getting cut off. They knew that last month. Why would they suddenly be hiring all these new people? That doesn't make any sense at all. Then they say tariff sensitive industries like retail and transportation added few jobs, while the manufacturing sector shed jobs. So fewer jobs were lost in the manufacturing sector. Isn't that what Trump was supposed to fix? All right, well, that didn't work. Now, this one statement, I just wanted to read this real quick from Secretary of Labor, Laurie Chavez de Raymer. I don't know. She sounds like she could be an alien, possibly. You never know. Might want to check on that. Alligator Alcatraz is waiting. Alligator Auschwitz is waiting, which opened today too, by the way. Happy 4th of July. Really amazing stuff. Really amazing. Here's what she said. Tell me if she sounds like someone who tell the truth. Last month's strong jobs numbers show that our economy continues to surge under President Trump's leadership. Month after month, economic indicators confirm that the great American comeback is in full swing. Thanks to President Trump's bold America First agenda, 147,000 new jobs are created just this month, beating expectations for the fourth month in a row, with more on the way as businesses bring production back home. Okay, as businesses bring production back home, we just read that manufacturing lost jobs. So what's she talking about? You see what I mean? There's stories when they're lying about stuff, their story's not going to make sense. And this story doesn't make sense at all. She says, as I travel the country on my America at Work listening tour, it's clear that hardworking men and women are tired of the broken status quo and the America last policies of the previous administration, which shipped jobs overseas and drove up prices. So if you want to stay in good with the commander in chief, you got to parrot his tweets, his tweeting points. So you always got to bash Biden in everything you say, and then he'll love you. He'll love you. They have to say that. They have to say that to keep their jobs. Now they have a president who's fighting for them and delivering results. Wages continue to rise, prices are coming down, and Americans are getting to work. None of that's true. All of it's false. Wages are not continuing to rise. Prices are not coming down, and they're soon to go up. And Americans aren't getting back to work, not according to the company that handles the payroll for millions of them. We're just getting started. Putting the one big, beautiful bill on President Trump's desk will deliver the largest tax cut in history for working families. No, it won't. That tax cut has already been in effect. They're not instituting any new tax cut for American families. They're just extending the deadline for the one that he enacted in this first term. And the deadline was this year. This was going to be the last year of it. So he's just extending that. There's no new tax cuts here. She says the bill will eliminate taxes on overtime pay and lower costs for small businesses. So my wife and I own two small businesses, and I'll let you know if we start seeing lower costs. I will. I'll be honest about it. This historic legislation will build on the momentum we've seen and unleash a new golden age of opportunity for American workers. I got to tell you, that none of that rings true to me, and none of it sounds like somebody who's telling the truth about the numbers. It sounds like somebody who's a propaganda queen for the administration. That's what it is. This whole thing's propaganda. This statement alone says that all they're interested in is providing good propaganda points for the administration. They're far more interested in that than they are in creating jobs and than they are in telling the truth about their failures. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. But I bet you might share it with me. I hope so. Anyway, all right, that's it. That's a state of affairs today, July 4th, 2025. Happy 249th anniversary, America.